Bartholomew. Nat had heard she was starting a drama school based at the Playhouse in Beaumont Street. Mrs. Van Beers, who had spotted Margaret's built-in timing, accepted her immediately as one of the first intake of the Oxford Playhouse School of Theatre. Thus she embarked on a 2-year course which was to pitch her into the ferment of both the hard professional theatre and the softer, more glamorous whirlpool of university productions. Oxford made her. Over the next 4 years, she broke many hearts, played countless leads, became a fixture in university revues, a personality in her adopted city, and a toast of the Edinburgh Festival. The Playhouse School was her passport, and Mrs. Van Beers her Svengali. Originally trained in ballet, the formidable and vastly experienced teacher had been sent to study acting in Oxford at the end of the 1920s. Like Margaret 20 years later, the budding actress had plenty of opportunity to rub shoulders with the best. In 1932 and 1933, Isabel Van Beers appeared in a minor capacity in 2 of the most renowned of all Aude's productions, John Gielgud's version of Romeo and Juliet and Max Reinhardt's outdoor A Midsummer Night's Dream. She had married Stanley Van Beers, a stage manager with Lillian Baylis at the Old Vic, and before the war worked in repertory in Leeds, Bradford and Coventry. The couple were later divorced, and Isabel took to teaching, basing herself in 28 Wellington Square, just off Beaumont Street, and a stone's throw from the Playhouse. The idea for the school at the Playhouse was hatched with Neville Coghill, the Fellow of Exeter College who was at the heart of Oxford theatre for more than 30 years. Morning classes were held in a little church in St. Cross, and the Playhouse stage was made available 5 afternoons a week from 2:30 to 5. Most importantly, the school had an arrangement with Equity, the Actors' Union, to provide students for 12 small parts a year within the professional company. Students were also encouraged, if invited, to take part in university and college productions. Thus, the students could learn to handle their audiences by listening to them, flushing them out, and adjusting to their funny ways and habits. This was the most important skill in Isabel Van Beers' book, and one for which Maggie Smith would become renowned. The fees were 20 guineas a term. The reward was a certificate in acting from the Guildhall School of Music and Drama in London, of which Mrs. Van Beers was an honorary member. Margaret had made a great impression on Mrs. Van Beers on one of her visits to the high school. The tutor gave her a speech of Helena's in A Midsummer Night's Dream. She sent it up, a child of 14, and I thought, oh my word, this is interesting. She had even then marvellous comedy timing, and she never made a mistake. By the time she came to the school, it was obvious she was going to be something. She was on one track, and her sights were at the top. Thus, in October 1951, Margaret Smith made her first appearance on the Playhouse stage as Jean in The Pickup Girl by Elsa Shelley. A photograph shows her leaning over a banister in a silk shirt, mouth half open, looking sultry. And in June 1952, as she completed her 2-year course, she at last played Viola in the Aude's 12th Night. The president of the Audes, John Wood, renowned later as a leading Royal Shakespeare Company actor, played Malvolio, looking as lean, lanky and statuesque as Don Quixote, said the Oxford Mail. The future television executive, Patrick Dromgoole, was Sir Toby, a dapper little man, not the usual gross-bellied understudy of Falstaff, and the founding director of the Royal Exchange Theatre in Manchester, Michael Elliott, who would one day direct Maggie as Miss Julie, was Antonio. Margaret Smith, the unfamiliar name, fooled the Aude's historian Humphrey Carpenter, who made nothing of it in his celebratory book, shivered in the gardens of Mansfield College every night, praying for rain. As Viola Cesario, she wore black tights, a white full-sleeved blouse and a sword, and she promptly collected her first rave revue. The Oxford Mail was more than complimentary. Margaret Smith, whose loveliness has a boyish quality about it, made Olivia's infatuation for her seem quite natural. I was much struck by the simple sincerity of her acting.